everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the trending L&D Next Rewired Leadership Days, exclusively curated by the Economic Times HR World in association with LinkedIn. My name is Saumya from the ETHR World team, as you all know, and I'm going to be your host for this series of these space-age conversations. The global situation has accentuated the need for L&D functions to be tech-savvy, future-ready, and agile. A combination of modern as well as effective training will lead to the desired results. The vision and mission of creating a progressive L&D function will have to be aligned and made consumable with a supporting tech stack. Please welcome my guests today with their unique POVs on how they are uncovering the most sought after technology, accentuating the scalable change that really stands out. Please put your hands together for Sanjay Dutt, SVP and Global Head, HR Centers of Excellence, EXL Service, and Samir Agarwal, India Head, Learning and Engagement, LinkedIn. Welcome, Sanjay and Samir. And I'm going to actually begin this with a soaring trend. So, Sanjay, let me start with you first. The role of L&D professionals has become more strategic and cross-functional. In that context, what are some of the newer challenges that L&D professionals are facing along this way?
First of all, thank you so much, Saumya, for having us here. This promises to be very exciting, but since you asked about challenges up front, I can tell you that there are not one, but many. The primary one, however, and I'm going to count three of them, the primary one, let me take a step back and talk about what's happening today in the world. So the value agenda of the organizations are all changing, right? As we know, as we move into the world of data and digital. And who's creating that value? It's the talent, right? Who's the primary value creator of the company? So talent should be at the forefront of the business agenda. It's obvious. There are a couple of other challenges I want to call out. And again, very linked to the futuristic world that we have stepped into, it's not stepping into, future-proofing our organizations in this dynamically, constantly changing world is the other key challenge that L&D professionals have to, where skilling needs are continuously evolving. And that is throwing out the traditional way of training in batches, the corporate push training. You can't do that. And number three challenge, very quickly, it is a new kind of talent that we have here, right? People who work today are very different. We call them a multi-generational workforce, very digitally savvy. They learn differently, right? They want to engage differently with the organizations. And L&D professionals have to kind of ensure that whether they are creating a content or courses or whatever, the whole experience is such that it kind of is catering to those needs.
Absolutely. That was very, very insightful. Thank you, Sanjay. And I really like that how you've put forward there are not one, there are going to be many. And now I'm going to move to Samir. Samir, would love to know from you that what role platforms and technologies are playing in helping them prepare for these newer challenges.
So there used to be a time, not so long ago, just 2 years ago, perhaps, when producing great content was the key thing that L&D professionals did. Today, it's so much more. Today, an L&D professional is expected to understand the skills inventory of a company. What is the demand like? What is the supply like? Today, an L&D professional is supposed to be the DE&I or a diversity, equity, and inclusion champion in the company. Today, an L&D professional is also driving internal mobility. So really, even before you get to tech and platforms, it's very, very important for this L&D professional to understand how this role has evolved and connect the dots between hiring, learning, and engagement.
That brings me to the next question and kind of steering the next gear on our episode today. Sanjay, I will come to you for this one. That how are you leveraging new age technologies like AI, predictive analytics, skills taxonomy, etc., to tap into the future of work?
So the first thing is that technology is so progressive and it's exciting. I mean, I must admit that these are exciting times for all of us who are in the capability development, learning space, indeed the whole talent space, right? But let me get tactical, like Samir was saying. Specifically, if you look at artificial intelligence, which I think is making the biggest difference, right? What it does is it's really today gets us a very deep understanding of learner behavior. And remember, as I said earlier, This is a new type of learner, right? One of the statements I love using a lot is, people don't think linearly now, or don't need to think linearly. They need to think geometrically, right? So you're talking about people who need to have multidimensional, multidisciplinary skills, think in a very different way. So how do you understand them? And then design. The second thing is about learner experience, right? We all talk about how do you get better learner experience. So you just are able to understand what your learner is as a user. The third thing is really this whole thing about virtual reality and augmented reality. And we are really dabbling with it at our organization at EXL. And this does really essentially what it does to you. It gets learning as close to real life as can. And I'm saying real life because today a lot of learning is happening remotely. This conversation is also remote, right? So what it does for us is just gives us that opportunity to, get the best of technology and make it as real life. And what it does is higher training engagement, ensuring that we can just kind of make it much more faster, real, less risk in a almost real situation, right? Last thing you talk about skills taxonomy. And I think that's really important because what it does to, in the current context, if you take a skill-based approach and target learning, what it does is that it just not just helps you fill up specific skill gaps, but the organizations need to drive performance in a much more accurate and agile fashion. And the skills taxonomy helps us do that and really reduces wastage of learning effort altogether.
That's just very, very well curated answer, Sanjay. Thank you so much for that. And it also brings me to yet another question for you. How can a new age learning experience platform help the L&D leaders achieve their business goals?
Let's just look at it very simply. Innovation cycles have got much shorter now, right? So what I needed to learn today will be irrelevant tomorrow. Look at the way traditionally how we brought learning to people. So we would, let's say in an organization such as ours, 40,000 odd people, you'd make batches of 20, 25, and you'd roll, let's say something to the whole organization, 2,000 iterations. We used to call them batches. I'm saying we used to because it seems so old fashioned now, right? And by the time you completed even 50% of your training, now the technology changes and the cycles are getting much faster. So by the time you even finish 10% of your training, you design, develop all of that, you have a new technology, you have a new, need. So I think the strategic benefit that a new age learning experience platform gives us is actually it helps us put learning in a form that people can learn from anywhere, at any time, at any pace, and most importantly, just keep on refreshing their learning at the speed, actually even staying ahead of technology changes and the innovation cycles.
I think that's a very powerful statement made just there. Thank you for that, Sanjay. Samir, I'm going to come to you to just understand this a bit more. What, according to you, are the most important features of LXPs or learning platforms?
Now, when it comes to LXPs, it's very important to first think about the learner experience. And when it comes to learning, whatever the medium of that learning be, there are always three things that matter. There is content, there is community, and there is outcomes. This, by the way, even starts from, I have a 10-year-old daughter, so if I have to choose a school for her, I look at these three things. And nothing changes when it comes to organizational learning. When I say content, by the way, today is ubiquitous. And Sanjay spoke about, putting AI to use to help for the discoverability of that content. So that element becomes really important when it comes to LXPs. Similarly, when it comes to community, we're no longer just using Sanjay's language, batches of people in a physical room, right? Yeah. But still, learning is a very social process, right? While people learn from people, they also learn with people. So when you're talking about LXPs, how do you create those social experiences so that you can get inspired from each other, you can nudge each other is important. And the third element is outcomes. From a learner perspective, this outcome is, okay, would I get a better job, a different job, more money, so on and so forth. From an organization's perspective, this outcome is, how is it that I'm effectively addressing the skills gap? So really, to summarize it all, content, community, and outcomes, ultimately, these are the three things to consider when it comes to LXPs.
Absolutely. And I hope our viewers have actually taken a note of it. For everyone who missed it, Samir shares its content, community, and outcomes. I think that's the potent mix that we're looking at. Thank you so much for that, Samir, and couldn't have agreed more. We are now going to take this conversation towards the implementation side. How can L&D professionals build a business case for the new age technology implementation? I think that's going to be the one of it. And maybe if I want to kind of just share it with the two of you, tell us the most important components of it.
Thank you, Saumya. So look, and this is to all the L&D professionals who may be listening in. If you're going to try and build a business case for any kind of technology implementation or any kind of investment in L&D by the traditional forms of doing a cost-benefit analysis, you're most probably not going to succeed, right? So I think the first thing is to understand that a lot of these are going to be strategic advantage or competitive differentiator that you're going to actually embed in, right? So you have to first get that right. The first thing which we did successfully was convert the business strategy into talent and just go out there and say, hey guys, you want to meet this results out here, you need to do this. So first of all, tie it with your business strategy. Second, you have to be convinced about the benefits, right? And you can't get the benefits just by implementing technology. You have to build in content, you have to build in practices like, Samir talked about communities of practices, peer-to-peer learning. And most importantly, the shift has to be from corporate push to user, pulled. Soon as you have user pulled kind of culture coming into organization, which is really employee centric, the business case for technology implementation is automatic because you can't do it otherwise. Without technology, you cannot have a user centric or an employee centric learning ecosystem.
Absolutely. That's very invigorating to know. Thank you for that, Sanjay. Let me start with Sanjay first on how to build a scalable learning ecosystem. And I'm going to take one anecdote from each one of you.
My anecdote is from anywhere, from anyone, at any time, at any place. And let me precede that by saying learning. So learning from anywhere, from anybody, at any place, at any time. You do that, you're going to scale. So just quickly, get everybody involved. To do that, you have to get everybody involved. You have to erase the boundaries of learning, open source, collaborative, peer-to-peer, upward, downward. It's no longer leaders training, so it can be upward. Learn from anywhere. And then shift from corporate-driven to user-driven.
Amazing. I think Samir is nodding along, and I'm going to come to Samir for this one.
Yeah, look, tough act to follow. Sanjay said it brilliantly. I would probably say don't be too obsessed with content. Focus more on context because content is ubiquitous. When you can put it in the right context, I think it works much more effectively.
That is a great sum up. Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. And of course, for our audience, I think this episode just got over. Well, this was a great chat and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you so much, Sanjay and Samir. I think it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you both. Thank you for taking out time and being here. And with this, we are going to wrap up today's episode. But of course, my favorite bit here, Leo Busaglia once said that change is the end result of all true learning. And that pretty much sums up our today's episode. I'm going to show this will keep you all going because we are going to be back next week with yet another exciting episode. Have a fantastic day ahead, everyone. Stay safe and thank you so much once again.